I have added one more order here so we can see pagination. That being said, what I want is I want to add text boxes on top to search by name, phone number, email, order status, and order date. So for that, let me close the application here. And first thing we'll do is we'll switch to our index view. Here we'll be adding the editors or input text box. We will first start with a form, and this time we'll have a method of get. Because we won't be posting anything, but when we hit the submit button, we will be making a get request to the index action in the order controller. In here, we'll add a div, give it a class of container, padding 4, and margin Y of 3. We will add a h2 with a class of text info and give heading to our page. We will call this as order management, and we'll add a div, give it a class of border bg white and padding 3. We'll give it a style here to give it a border radius of 15 pixel. Within this div, we will add another div, give it a class of row, and we will add div, give it a class of column 12. This column will divide into 3 separate columns. So let me add a div, give it a class of row, and let me give it a style of padding top of 10 pixel. Here we will add div, give it class of column 4. What we want is 3 text boxes for name, phone number, and email. We can use input, or we can use HTML helper, which is html.editor. When you use this, you can see there are multiple parameters. First one, we'll give it a name and we'll call it search name, followed by the attributes. So we'll create new. It won't be string right here. We will add the HTML attributes. We want to add a class as well as placeholder. So here we'll say add class is equal to, we will give it a class of form control and comma. We'll add a placeholder which will display name. This looks good for the first one. Let me copy this and paste this 2 more times. Next we will have email and phone number. So we'll add email here, we'll have phone, and we'll add the placeholders accordingly. Then let me add another div, give it a class of row for the next row. In there, we will add a div, give it a class of column 4. We want to display the drop-down for all the status. You can use tag helpers or you can use HTML helpers. I have always used tag helpers so far, but in certain scenarios, HTML helpers are beneficial. One example is here when you type in anything inside the name and you post a GET request. If you are using HTML helper, the request will stay as is. So that's why it's good to know that there are both the options available, but as always, you should try to stick to one of them, which we have used tag helpers throughout the course, except this index page where I want to use the html.editor. So for the drop-down list, we'll say u goes to u.status. And next, how do we populate that? That we already have inside model.status list. Next, we want a default text here. So we'll display order status. Final thing here is any attributes we want. We want to add a styling. So we'll say new. In there, we'll say add class is equal to form control. And with Bootstrap 5, we have to use form select rather than form control. So we'll change that as well. Then we'll add a div, give it a class of offset by 4, and we'll make it column 4. We will have our search button. So we'll add a button, give it a type of submit. This won't submit to a post because the form is a get method. We'll add a class here of h100, btn info, and form control. We'll also add a font awesome FAS FA-search, and outside of this we'll write search. Let's save this and let's run our application to see how things look. While the page loads, let me switch back and I'll minimize this. Where we have the main div, I'll add an HR element, and in this div I'll add a class of bgwhite and padding 3. Let's go back to our project. Let's log in as an admin user and go to order. We have these things on the top. The form select is not working. Let me expand this, and I have a mistake there. Select 1. I'll also add padding top of 1. Let's refresh, and this looks much better. So we have all the order status, name, email, and phone number. That being said, when we enter anything and hit search button, nothing happens right now. Let's take care of that in the next video.